My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 28 years old. And the strange thing about the moment your life quietly begins to crack apart is that it rarely arrives like a catastrophe. There's no dramatic music, no screaming, no shattered glass across the kitchen floor. Sometimes, it begins with a phone call on an ordinary Thursday night, and a woman whispering words that make your stomach turn cold. I had been with my boyfriend, Ethan Carter, for almost 2 years. We met at a friend's backyard barbecue during one of those humid summer nights where everyone smells like smoke and cheap beer and sunscreen. He made me laugh within 5 minutes. Not performative laughing. Real laughing. The kind that escapes before you can stop it. By the end of the night, we were sitting on the porch steps talking, while everyone else drifted back inside. 8 months later, we moved in together. And somehow, living together felt easier than dating. There was no awkward adjustment period. No power struggle. No guessing games. Just comfort. Ethan worked as a physical therapist at a rehabilitation clinic, and I worked as a pediatric nurse at a children's hospital downtown. Our schedules were exhausting, but we fit together naturally, like two people who had unknowingly been searching for the same kind of peace. I genuinely believed I had found my person, and maybe that's why what happened next hurt so deeply. Because betrayal is terrifying enough, but betrayal from someone standing beside you the entire time? That changes the way you see human beings forever. Samantha Reed had been Ethan's best friend since college. They'd known each other nearly a decade. She was always around. Birthday dinners, movie nights, weekend brunches, random Tuesday evenings where she'd just happen to stop by with coffee. I never questioned it. Why would I? She seemed nice enough. A little intense sometimes, maybe. A little too emotionally invested in Ethan's opinions. A little too eager to compare herself to me. But nothing obvious. Nothing I could point to and say, there, that's the problem. Whenever I mentioned her occasionally overstepping boundaries, Ethan would smile and shrug. That's just Sam, he'd say. She gets protective. Protective. Funny word. Looking back now, I think obsession often disguises itself as protectiveness at first. It sounds softer that way. Less dangerous. 3 weeks ago, everything changed. It was around 9 at night. Ethan was working late at the clinic covering for another therapist, and I was curled up on the couch half watching some terrible reality show while folding laundry. My phone buzzed beside me. Sam's name flashed across the screen. I almost ignored it. Almost. Hey, I answered. Everything okay? Silence. Not complete silence. Breathing. Uneven breathing. Then, I need to talk to you about something. Her voice sounded shaky. Fragile. Like someone preparing to detonate a bomb and pretend they regretted it. What's wrong? Another pause. Then quietly, I need to warn you. Ethan's cheating on you. The world didn't stop dramatically like it does in movies. It narrowed. That's the only way I can explain it. The room suddenly felt smaller. The air heavier. My fingers tightened around the phone automatically. What? I didn't want to be the one to tell you, she whispered. But you deserve to know. My chest tightened painfully. He's been seeing someone from the clinic, one of the receptionists. I have proof. For a second, I genuinely couldn't breathe. My brain kept trying to reject the sentence before it could fully land. Not Ethan. Not him. Not us. Send it, I said quietly. She hesitated. And that hesitation would later replay in my mind 100 times. Promise you won't tell him I told you, she said quickly. Please, he'll hate me forever. I'm only doing this because I care about you. Care. Another soft word hiding something ugly underneath. Just send it. 5 minutes later, screenshots started appearing on my phone. Messages supposedly between Ethan and some woman named Lena. Flirty texts. Plans to meet up. A few messages suggestive enough to make my stomach churn. I stared at them for a long time. Long enough for anger to arrive. Long enough for humiliation to begin creeping in behind it. But underneath all of that, something felt wrong. Not emotionally wrong. Technically wrong. I know that sounds strange. But I spend 12 hours a day in a hospital where details matter. Small inconsistencies matter. Timing matters. Patterns matter. And something about those screenshots felt staged. The messages were weirdly generic, like dialogue written by someone trying too hard. Can't wait to see you again. You looked so beautiful today. Our secret is safe with me. Nobody talks like that consistently. Especially not Ethan. Ethan texted like a normal human being. Half abbreviations. Typos everywhere. Voice messages instead of paragraphs. These texts sounded polished.
Artificial.
Then I noticed the timestamps. One of the messages had supposedly been sent Sunday afternoon, except Ethan had spent that entire Sunday with me at my parents' house, helping my dad repair the backyard fence. I remembered because Ethan accidentally smashed his thumb with a hammer and swore so loudly my mother nearly threw him out of the yard. Another message supposedly happened Tuesday night at 8:13. Except Ethan had FaceTimed me from the grocery store at 8:10, asking which pasta sauce I wanted. I sat there, slowly rereading every screenshot. The dread inside me shifting into something colder, more focused. Then I checked the number attached to the messages. Google Voice. Unregistered. Easy to create. Easy to fake. My pulse slowed instead of sped up. And that was the moment I realized something terrifying. Either Ethan was somehow leading a double life worthy of a crime documentary, or someone was manufacturing evidence deliberately. And deep down, I already knew who. I barely slept that night. Ethan came home exhausted around midnight, carrying takeout because he knew I'd probably forgotten to eat dinner again. Long day? He asked softly, kissing the top of my head. I looked at him carefully. Really looked at him. His tired eyes. His messy hair. The familiar warmth in his voice. And I tried to imagine him betraying me. I couldn't. Not because I was naive. Not because women blindly trust men they love. But because lies leave fingerprints. And Ethan had none. Still, fear does ugly things to your brain, even when logic is present. Especially when love is involved. That night, after he fell asleep beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while my mind replayed every interaction Sam and I had ever had. Every strange comment. Every lingering glance. Every joke that suddenly didn't feel like a joke anymore. And once I started seeing the pattern, I couldn't unsee it. Over the next few days, I became obsessive. Not proud of it. But heartbreak turns people into detectives. I checked Ethan's phone while he showered. Nothing. No hidden apps. No suspicious contacts. No deleted conversations. Just normal messages. Texts with me. His mom. His younger sister, Olivia. Coworkers. And Sam. I opened their conversation thread. At first glance, it looked harmless. Memes. Plans for group dinners. Random complaints about work. But then, little things started standing out. Sam asking questions constantly about our relationship. Are things still good between you two? Does Claire really understand you emotionally? Do you ever miss being single? Ethan's replies were always immediate. What? No. Claire's amazing. Why are you acting weird? And Sam's response is, God. Once you know what obsession looks like, it becomes impossible to miss. You deserve someone who prioritizes you. Sometimes people settle without realizing it. You're too loyal for your own good. Seed planting. Tiny poisonous seeds. Not enough to trigger alarm immediately. Just enough to slowly create doubt. I kept scrolling. Then I found something that made my stomach twist. 2 months earlier, Sam had sent Ethan a link to an article titled, Signs Your Partner May Be Hiding Something. Her message underneath read, Not saying anything, just thought this sounded familiar. Ethan's response? Claire would literally tell me if she robbed a bank. Relax. Sam replied, You never really know people. I stared at that message for a very long time. Because suddenly, the phone call made perfect sense. She had tried making Ethan suspicious of me first. When that failed, she switched targets. Me. The realization hit slowly, like icy water filling your lungs. Sam wasn't trying to protect either of us. She was trying to separate us. And the worst part? I still didn't fully understand why. Not yet, but I was going to. So, I made a decision. I texted the next morning. Claire, we need to talk about the screenshots. Can we meet? Her response came instantly. Too instantly. Sam, of course, I'm here for you. I could practically hear the satisfaction hidden underneath the sympathy. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop the following afternoon. Ethan would supposedly be at work. Perfect. What Sam didn't know was that I had already told him everything. Every screenshot. Every inconsistency. Every suspicion. I sat across from him the night before the meeting while he read through the messages in stunned silence. At first, he looked confused, then hurt, then horrified, and finally, heartbroken. Not because he'd been accused of cheating, but because the woman he'd trusted for nearly 10 years was trying to destroy his relationship. She's always been kind of possessive, he admitted quietly, but I never thought. His voice broke slightly. I never thought she'd do something like this. I reached across the table and took his hand. And for the first time since that phone call, I felt calm. Because whatever happened next, we were facing it together. The next afternoon, I arrived at the coffee shop 10 minutes early. I chose a table near the window. Not because I wanted sunlight, because I wanted witnesses. Sam walked in at exactly 2 o'clock, and the moment I saw her, my stomach tightened. She looked like she had prepared for a date. Full makeup, soft curls, new blouse, perfume strong enough to reach me before she did. She smiled sadly when she saw me, the kind of smile people use when they want to look compassionate in public. "Oh, Claire," she whispered, sliding into the chair across from me. "I'm so sorry." Then she reached for my hand. I pulled it back. Her smile flickered, only for half a second, but I saw it. "Walk me through it again," I said quietly. "How did you get those messages?" She blinked. "I told you. Ethan left his phone unlocked at my place last week. I wasn't snooping. A notification popped up and I just saw it." Interesting. Her shoulders stiffened. "Why is that interesting?" "Because I checked his phone. There's no Lena, no messages like that. Nothing deleted either." Her eyes moved away from mine. "He probably erased everything. The timestamps don't work." "What?" I placed my phone on the table and opened the screenshots. This one was supposedly sent Sunday afternoon. Ethan was with me at my parents' house all day. This one was Tuesday night. He was on FaceTime with me from the grocery store. Sam swallowed. Maybe he has another phone. The number is Google Voice. Silence. The cafe noise seemed to fade around us. Coffee machines hissing. Cups clinking. People laughing like the world hadn't just become something sharp and ugly. Sam leaned forward, lowering her voice. "Claire, listen to me. Men hide things. You don't know him the way I do." And there it was. Not concern. Possession. I tilted my head. "You're right. I don't know him the way you do." For 1 second, satisfaction flashed across her face. Then I continued. "But I know him well enough to know he didn't write those messages." Her lips parted. "I had someone look at the screenshots," I said. "They weren't taken from a phone. They were created on a computer." Her face drained slowly, like someone had pulled a plug beneath her skin. "You're lying." "No," I said. "You are." She stared at me. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then the fragile, wounded act disappeared. Her eyes hardened. Her mouth twisted into something almost cruel. "Fine," she said. One word. Flat. Cold. Confession without apology. So what if I made them? Even though I had expected it, hearing her say it still knocked the air from my chest. "Why?" I whispered. She laughed once. Not happily. Bitterly. "Because you don't deserve him." I sat completely still. "You barely see him," she continued, her voice trembling now, but not from guilt, from rage. "You work all the time. You come home tired. You don't appreciate what you have." "And you do?" I know him better than you ever will. No, Sam. You know the version of him you created in your head. Her hands curled into fists on the table. I would treat him better. You tried to frame him as a cheater. I was trying to make you leave before you ruined him. That sentence chilled me more than the screenshots ever had. Because she believed it. Truly believed it. In her mind, she wasn't cruel. She was righteous. The villain of our story had written herself as the savior. You don't love him, I said quietly. You want to own him. Her eyes filled with tears, but they didn't soften her face. You have no idea what I've felt all these years. You're right, I said, and I don't want to. She leaned closer. You think he'll choose you forever? I held her gaze. He already chose me. Her breath caught. Then I delivered the part she didn't know. Ethan knows everything. The color left her face completely. What? I told him before I came here. No, her voice cracked. No, you didn't. I showed him the screenshots, the timestamps, the messages where you tried to make him doubt me. All of it. She shook her head like a child refusing bad news. You had no right. I almost laughed. No right? Her eyes filled with panic now. Real panic. Not performance. You can't let him think I'm crazy. You did that yourself. She grabbed my wrist suddenly. Too tight. Claire, please, don't take him from me. I looked down at her hand. Then, back at her. He was never yours. Something inside her broke at that. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But I saw it. Her expression shifted from fear to hatred so quickly it scared me. I pulled my wrist free and stood. We're done, Sam. Both of us. She rose halfway from her chair. You'll regret this. No, I said. I think you will. I walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. But through the window reflection, I saw her still standing there. Alone. Shaking, and watching me like I had stolen something from her. That night, Ethan ended the friendship. Not with anger. With grief. He wrote one message. Clear. Final. He told her he knew everything. The fake screenshots, the manipulation, the lies. He told her not to contact either of us again. Her reply came 3 minutes later. You're making a mistake. She'll hurt you eventually. Don't come crying to me when she does. Ethan read it once. Then blocked her. I blocked her too. We thought that was the end. We were wrong. 2 weeks later, it became painfully obvious that Sam wasn't going to let go quietly. At first, it was subtle. Little things. Mutual friends acting strange around us. Conversations stopping when we entered rooms. People avoiding eye contact. Then came the rumors. According to Sam's version of events, Ethan had confessed feelings for her at the coffee shop. Apparently, I had lost control after discovering it and forced him to cut her off because I was insecure and manipulative. In another version, she claimed she had only fabricated the screenshots because she was testing my loyalty to Ethan. In another, she claimed Ethan had emotionally led her on for years. The story kept changing. But one detail remained consistent in every version. She was always the victim. And somehow, we were the villains. Our friend group split almost immediately. Some people believed us. Others believed her. A few stayed neutral publicly while secretly asking mutual friends for gossip, like our lives were entertainment. It was humiliating. But worse than humiliation was the realization that lies spread faster than truth ever will. Especially emotional lies. Especially from someone crying while telling them. Then the anonymous messages started. The first arrived at 11:47 p.m. Unknown number. You destroyed someone who loved you. The second came the next morning. Unknown number. Karma's coming. Then another. And another. Different numbers every time. Same tone. Same bitterness. Same unstable energy hiding behind fake righteousness. Ethan wanted to ignore them initially. I didn't. Not because I was scared. Because I work with children. And one thing I've learned is that unstable people escalate when consequences don't exist. So we documented everything. Screenshots. Dates. Phone records. Every message carefully saved into a folder Ethan named just in case. At the time, neither of us understood how important that folder would become. 3 days later, Sam escalated again. This time, she went after Ethan's job. I was halfway through a 12-hour hospital shift when Ethan called me. The second I answered, I knew something was wrong. His breathing sounded uneven. Tight. "Hey," he said quietly. "What happened?" Long silence. Then, HR called me in this morning. Ice slid down my spine instantly. "Why?" Another pause. Then the sentence that made my hands start shaking. Someone filed a complaint saying I was having an inappropriate relationship with a patient's wife. For a moment, the hospital hallway around me disappeared. All I could hear was blood rushing in my ears. "What?" "She used the fake screenshots," he whispered. I leaned against the wall because suddenly my knees didn't feel stable anymore. Oh my God. The clinic launched an investigation immediately. Of course they did. They had to. Allegations involving patient boundaries are serious. Career-ending serious. Ethan spent nearly 4 hours in a conference room answering questions, while administrators combed through records and communication logs. The woman Sam claimed he was involved with didn't exist. The appointments didn't exist either. The screenshots collapsed under even mild scrutiny. But accusations leave stains. Even false ones. Especially false ones. Because people remember suspicion longer than correction. When Ethan came home that night, he looked exhausted in a way I had never seen before. Not physically exhausted. Emotionally hollow. He dropped his keys onto the counter and just stood there, staring at nothing. "They looked at me differently," he said quietly. My chest tightened. The HR director tried not to, but I could tell. I walked toward him slowly. "They know it's fake." "Yeah," he said, "but for a few hours, they thought maybe it wasn't." His voice cracked slightly, and hearing that nearly broke me. Because Ethan was one of the gentlest people I'd ever known. The kind of man who remembered janitors' birthdays. Who stayed late helping elderly patients practice walking because he couldn't stand seeing them frustrated. And now, someone had weaponized kindness against him simply because she couldn't handle rejection. He sat on the couch and buried his face in his hands. "I keep replaying everything," he whispered. "Every conversation, every moment I thought she was just being a good friend." I sat beside him carefully. "You didn't cause this. She was in our apartment, Claire. She sat at our table. She hugged you." I knew what he meant. That was the worst part. Not the lies. Not the threats. The intimacy of the betrayal. The realization that someone had been studying our lives from inside the circle. Watching. Waiting. Resenting. "I trusted her for 10 years, he said quietly. Then finally, his composure cracked. Not dramatically. No shouting. No breakdown. Just silent tears sliding down his face while he stared at the floor. And something inside me hardened permanently in that moment. Because heartbreak is one thing. But watching someone you love suffer because another person felt entitled to them, that creates a different kind of anger. A colder one. That night, we made a decision. This wasn't going to disappear on its own. And Sam wasn't going to stop unless someone forced her to. The next morning, we met with a lawyer. Her office overlooked downtown, all glass walls and polished wood and terrifyingly expensive coffee. She listened carefully while we explained everything. The screenshots. The fake complaint. The harassment. The anonymous texts. She barely interrupted. Just took notes calmly while Ethan and I slowly unpacked the nightmare our lives had become. Finally, she folded her hands. "If you can prove the screenshots were fabricated," she said, "you likely have a strong defamation case." "I can prove it," I said immediately. Ethan glanced at me. "You already had them analyzed?" I nodded. His eyebrows lifted slightly. "What?" I needed certainty before accusing her. For the first time in days, the corner of his mouth twitched upward. "You're terrifying sometimes." Occupational hazard. The lawyer continued. "The false complaint to his employer strengthens your case significantly, especially since it endangered his professional standing. There's more. Ethan added quietly, sliding the folder of anonymous messages across the table. Her expression sharpened as she flipped through them. And this, she said, establishes a pattern of harassment. For the first time since this nightmare started, I felt something dangerous. Hope. Not emotional hope. Strategic hope. Because truth is fragile on its own. But documented truth? That becomes difficult to escape. Our lawyer recommended starting with a cease and desist letter. One final warning before legal action. A chance for Sam to stop. Retract the lies. Disappear quietly. Part of me already knew she wouldn't. People who build entire emotional realities around obsession rarely surrender gracefully. Still, we gave her the opportunity. The letter was delivered on a Tuesday morning. It outlined everything. The fabricated screenshots. The false workplace complaint. The harassment campaign. It demanded immediate cessation of all contact and public retraction of defamatory statements. Otherwise, we would proceed legally. Her response arrived 2 days later. Through a lawyer. Apparently, her parents had hired one. The letter was infuriating. Formal. Polished. Carefully worded to avoid direct admissions. My client denies all allegations. My client reserves the right to pursue damages for emotional distress. Emotional distress. I stared at that phrase in disbelief. She's claiming emotional distress? I asked. Our lawyer sighed. Common strategy. Position herself as emotionally unstable instead of malicious. Ethan laughed bitterly. She tried to ruin my career. Yes, the lawyer said calmly, but emotionally manipulative people often see themselves as victims, even while causing harm. Then she pointed to the last paragraph. Mediation request. I frowned. What does that mean? It means, the lawyer said, she's scared. Our lawyer explained that mediation was usually requested when one side realized trial might go very badly for them. Sam wanted this contained. Quiet. Controlled. Probably because once legal discovery started, every lie she'd told would become documented permanently. Every fake screenshot. Every anonymous message. Every fabricated accusation. Public record. You don't have to accept mediation, our lawyer said carefully. Ethan looked at me. I already knew his answer. Because it matched mine. No, I said. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. You're sure? I nodded. This stopped being a misunderstanding the second she tried to destroy his career. Ethan's hand found mine beneath the conference table. Warm. Steady. We're done protecting her from consequences, he said quietly. So the lawsuit was filed the following week. Defamation. Harassment. Intentional interference with employment. We weren't suing for millions. We weren't trying to financially ruin her. Honestly, if money had been the goal, we could have pursued far more. What we wanted was accountability. Legal fees. Therapy expenses. Formal retractions. A documented acknowledgement that she lied. Because people like Sam survive by rewriting reality. We wanted reality preserved somewhere she couldn't manipulate it. Her family exploded almost immediately. 3 days after the lawsuit was filed, my mother called me while I was driving home from work. You need to brace yourself, she said carefully. For what? Sam's mother just called me. I closed my eyes briefly. Of course she did. And? She screamed for 10 minutes. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was so predictable. What did she say? That you're ruining Sam's life over a misunderstanding. That she's emotionally fragile. That Ethan led her on. The laugh escaped before I could stop it this time. Sharp. Disbelieving. Led her on by existing? Apparently. I pulled into our apartment parking lot slowly. What else? My mother hesitated. She said Sam's been struggling mentally for years and that we should show compassion. Compassion. Another soft word. Another shield people use when they want consequences erased. I sat in silence for a moment. Then quietly. Did you tell her what Sam did to Ethan? Yes. And? She said Sam was just confused about her feelings. Confused. That word lit something hot inside my chest. Because confusion doesn't fabricate evidence. Confusion doesn't anonymously harass people. Confusion doesn't attempt to destroy someone's livelihood. Obsession does. Entitlement does. My mother sighed softly. I told her the same thing. I leaned back against the seat. What did she say? She cried. Of course she did. People like Sam never learned accountability in a vacuum. Someone had spent years teaching her that emotions mattered more than actions. Ethan received his own call later that night. Sam's father. I listened quietly from the kitchen while Ethan took it on speaker. Son, the man began heavily. Can we talk man to man for a second? Ethan's jaw tightened immediately. You can talk. She made a mistake. I watched Ethan's expression flatten. Mistake? She's young. She's 27. She got emotional. She acted irrationally. Ethan let out a slow breath through his nose. She fabricated evidence, filed a false complaint with my employer, harassed us anonymously, and spread lies to our friends. She's in therapy now. Good, Ethan said calmly. She needs it. The silence on the other end stretched. Then, the lawsuit will destroy her future. I saw something flicker across Ethan's face then. Not guilt. Exhaustion. Mr. Reed, he said quietly, your daughter tried to destroy mine. The line went silent. And for a second, I think even Sam's father realized the truth of it. Not emotionally. Factually. Finally, he spoke again, softer this time. She loved you. Ethan's eyes hardened instantly. No, he said. She loved the version of me she invented. Then he hung up. I thought the legal process would make me feel vindicated. It didn't. Mostly, it made me tired. There's something emotionally draining about watching someone dismantle themselves while insisting they're the victim. Depositions began. Evidence was exchanged. Phone records. Metadata analysis. Witness statements. And the deeper everything went, the uglier it became. Because Sam hadn't simply acted impulsively one night. She had been building toward this for months. Maybe years. Our lawyer uncovered deleted draft messages from one of Sam's cloud backups during discovery. Messages she never sent. But saved. Paragraph after paragraph about Ethan. About me. About how unfair life was. One line still haunts me. She doesn't even realize what she has. I could love him correctly. Correctly. As if love were ownership. As if devotion justified destruction. Ethan read that message once and immediately closed the laptop. I can't do this tonight, he whispered. I sat beside him quietly. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Because sometimes, betrayal becomes too large to process all at once. Then came the worst part. The mutual friends. Some apologized immediately once evidence started surfacing. Others disappeared entirely. But a few doubled down. One woman I'd known for over a year pulled me aside during a birthday dinner and whispered, I still think suing her is excessive. I stared at her. Really? She was obviously emotionally unstable. I felt something inside me go cold. Do you know how many emotionally unstable people never try ruining someone's career? She opened her mouth, closed it again. I leaned closer. If Ethan had lost his license because of her lies, would you still call this excessive? She had no answer for that. Because people love preaching forgiveness when they aren't the ones bleeding. About 6 weeks after the lawsuit was filed, our lawyer called. I answered during my lunch break at the hospital. They want to settle, she said immediately. I leaned against the break room counter slowly. Why now? Because their forensic consultant confirmed the screenshots were fabricated. For a second, I just closed my eyes. Not relief exactly. More like exhaustion finally loosening its grip slightly. What are the terms? The settlement was brutal. Not financially. Emotionally. Sam would have to provide a formal written apology, acknowledging the screenshots were fake and the HR complaint was false. She would have to issue written retractions to every mutual friend she lied to. She would pay Ethan's legal fees. And most importantly, there would be a permanent no-contact agreement. Any future harassment would trigger automatic financial penalties. In other words, the truth would become legally documented. Unavoidable. Permanent. When I told Ethan that night, he sat very still, then quietly asked, "So this is really over?" I looked at him carefully. "No," I said honestly. "Not completely, because some betrayals don't end when paperwork is signed. They linger. Inside trust. Inside memory. Inside the part of you that now understands how close obsession can stand beside love without anyone noticing." Still, for the first time in weeks, we could finally breathe. The settlement was finalized on a rainy Thursday morning. Fitting, honestly. The sky outside the law office looked exhausted. Gray. Heavy. Like the world itself wanted this mess finished already. Sam never looked at us during the signing. That surprised me more than I expected. For weeks, I had imagined anger, defiance, some dramatic emotional explosion. Instead, she looked hollow. Her makeup barely concealed the dark circles beneath her eyes, and her hands trembled slightly every time she turned a page. Her lawyer did almost all the talking. Careful legal language. Neutral tone. Everything stripped of emotion. But emotions were everywhere anyway. In the silence. In Ethan's rigid posture beside me. In the way Sam avoided even accidentally meeting my eyes. The formal apology sat inside the settlement packet. Typed. Clinical. Yet devastating. She acknowledged the screenshots had been fabricated. She acknowledged the workplace complaint was false. She acknowledged causing reputational and emotional harm. Not once did the apology use the word obsession. But it didn't need to. The entire document screamed it. When the final signature was complete, our lawyer closed the folder gently. That concludes the matter. Just like that. Months of chaos reduced to one sentence. Sam stood immediately. For one terrifying second, I thought she might say something. Instead, she grabbed her purse and walked out without looking back. The door shut softly behind her. And that was the end of a 10-year friendship. Not with screaming. Not with cinematic drama. Just silence. Some endings are cruel, precisely because they're quiet. I thought I would feel victorious afterward. I didn't. Mostly, I felt sad. Not for Sam. For Ethan. Because grief hit him in strange waves after the settlement. Not grief over losing her romantically. That had never existed for him. But grief over losing someone he once trusted completely. A week after everything ended, I found him sitting alone on our balcony late at night. Barefoot. Blanket around his shoulders. Just staring out at the city. "You okay?" I asked softly. He gave a small shrug. "I keep thinking about college." I sat beside him quietly. "She was there for everything back then," he murmured. "Breakups, graduation, my dad getting sick. She was just part of my life." I rested my head lightly against his shoulder. "And now?" He let out a slow breath. "Now I don't even know if any of it was real." That sentence hurt more than I expected. Because that's what betrayal really destroys. Not relationships. Memory. It contaminates old happiness retroactively. Makes you question moments that once felt safe. I reached for his hand. "You know what I think?" "What?" "I think she probably did love you in her own way once." He looked at me carefully. But somewhere along the line, love turned into entitlement. He was quiet for a while, then nodded slowly. "Yeah," he whispered. "That sounds right." The retractions went out over the next several days. Every mutual friend received written statements from Sam acknowledging that the accusations against Ethan were false. Some friends called us immediately afterward, horrified. Others sent awkward apology texts. A few vanished entirely from our lives. Honestly, good. Nothing reveals people faster than conflict. The ones who truly cared checked facts before choosing sides. The ones addicted to drama chose the loudest emotional narrative available. One mutual friend, Jessica, cried on the phone, apologizing to me. "I should have trusted you," she kept saying. I listened quietly before finally answering. "You should have trusted evidence." Silence. Then softly, "You're right." Ethan's workplace slowly recovered too. The official investigation had already cleared him completely, But now there was documented legal proof attached to everything. The clinic director called him into her office privately one afternoon. He came home afterward, looking emotionally drained again. "What happened?" I asked. He sat beside me on the couch. She apologized. "For what?" "For how the investigation was handled." I frowned slightly. "She had to investigate." "I know," he said quietly. "But she said she was sorry I went through it at all." He leaned back against the couch cushions. Apparently, some staff members admitted they'd been gossiping. Anger flashed hot inside me instantly. "What?" He rubbed his eyes tiredly. "It's over now." But I could tell it still hurt him. Because false accusations don't disappear once disproven. Part of the humiliation lingers. Like smoke after a fire. 3 weeks after the settlement, Sam's mother made one final attempt. She showed up unannounced at my parents' house, carrying a thick envelope. My mother told me later that she looked exhausted. Older somehow. Like stress had physically pulled her downward. "She asked if you'd read a letter from Sam," my mom said while handing me the envelope. "How long?" 12 pages. I stared at it. 12 pages. Part of me didn't want to open it. But curiosity won. That night, Ethan and I sat at the kitchen table, reading it together. By page 3, I already understood something important. The letter wasn't an apology. It was a justification. Page after page explaining Sam's loneliness, her insecurities, her feelings of inadequacy growing up beside more successful friends, her fear that nobody would ever choose her first. And threaded through all of it, her feelings for Ethan. "I loved him long before you did. I saw him more clearly. You took him for granted." Not once did she fully accept responsibility without immediately explaining why she had done it. There was always an excuse waiting beside every confession. Finally, Ethan pushed the pages away. "I can't finish this." I kept reading quietly. Near the end, one paragraph finally made my chest ache instead of burn. If I had simply told the truth about my feelings years ago, maybe none of this would have happened. I stared at that sentence for a very long time. Because buried underneath all the manipulation and obsession, there it was. The real tragedy. Cowardice. She had spent years refusing to say what she wanted honestly. And eventually, the silence twisted her into someone unrecognizable. Ethan looked at me carefully. "What are you thinking?" I folded the letter slowly. "I think she destroyed her own life because she couldn't handle rejection before it even happened." He nodded once, quietly. Then he took the envelope, walked to the trash can, and dropped the entire thing inside. Neither of us spoke afterward. Some stories don't deserve endless revisiting. The aftermath settled slowly after that. Sam moved out of state a month later. Apparently, her parents helped her relocate near relatives for a fresh start. That phrase irritated me more than it should have. Fresh start. As if changing zip codes magically rewrites history. As if the people you hurt stop carrying scars simply because you disappeared. Still, distance helped. The anonymous messages stopped. The rumors died down. Life gradually became recognizable again. And somewhere inside the quiet recovery afterward, Ethan and I realized something unexpected. We had survived. Not perfectly. Not painlessly. But together. One night, about 4 months after the settlement, Ethan took me back to the same backyard where we first met. Same string lights. Same porch steps. Different version of us. Older somehow. Sadder maybe. But stronger too. We sat there talking for nearly an hour before he suddenly got quiet. Then nervous. Which almost never happened. "Claire," he said softly. My heart immediately started racing. He pulled a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. And for one ridiculous second, I actually started crying before he even opened it. He laughed shakily. "That bad, huh?" I covered my mouth, already crying harder. "You idiot." He smiled then. That same smile from the night we met. Warm enough to feel like home. "I know this year has been hell," he whispered. "But if there's one thing I'm absolutely certain about now, it's you." The ring trembled slightly in his fingers. "I want every version of life with you. The easy ones, the terrible ones, All of it. Tears blurred my vision completely. "So," he asked softly, "will you marry me?" I said yes before he even finished the sentence. Of course I did. "We're getting married next fall. Small ceremony. Immediate family only. No complicated friendships. No emotional landmines hiding inside the guest list. Just people who actually understand what love looks like. Real love. Not obsession. Not possession. Not entitlement disguised as devotion." Sometimes people ask if I regret taking legal action. If maybe we should have just moved on. Maybe. But here's the thing. People like Sam survive because everyone around them keeps confusing emotional pain with permission. She was hurting. I believe that completely. But hurting people still make choices. And her choices could have destroyed innocent lives. Consequences mattered. Truth mattered. Not because it changed everyone's opinion, but because it protected reality from becoming whatever version she found emotionally convenient. And at the end of all this, that truth gave Ethan and me something stronger than blind trust. It gave us earned trust. The kind that survives being tested. The kind built by choosing each other while everything around you tries to pull you apart. That's the version of the story I'll keep forever.